All right, let's dive into one of the most explosive projects in crypto history, Ether. Now, this isn't just another stablecoin. It's a completely different way of thinking about a digital dollar, and we're going to break down exactly how this thing works. You know, this is probably the best way to wrap your head around it. Ethena is not really a currency in the way we usually think about it. It's a super complex financial strategy, the kind usually locked away in elite hedge funds that's been tokenized and handed to the public.
So you have to ask, why build something so complicated? Well, it's because the entire idea of a digital dollar has been stuck in a trap, a fundamental problem that has haunted this industry for years. And that problem is called the Stablecoin Trilemma. It's the real reason why creating the perfect digital dollar has been so difficult.
So what is it? The trilemma basically says you can have any two of these three things: decentralization, capital efficiency, or rock-solid stability, but you can never, ever have all three at once. Every single stablecoin has had to make a painful choice.
So first, you've got coins like USDC. They're stable, they're efficient, all because they're backed by real dollars sitting in a bank. But that's also their biggest weakness. They're centralized. And we saw this play out during the Silicon Valley Bank crisis, right? USDC suddenly broke its peg and dropped to 88 cents because its reserves were suddenly at risk.
Okay, so you say, let's get away from the banks. That leads you to something decentralized, like DeFi. And that's great, but to keep it stable, you have to lock up way more collateral than the coins you create. We're talking 150% or even more. That makes it incredibly difficult to scale up and meet demand.
And then there was the attempt to be both decentralized and capital efficient. Of course, I'm talking about algorithmic stablecoins. The most infamous one, Terra's UST, gave up stability. Its whole design was a house of cards that collapsed into a death spiral, vaporizing tens of billions of dollars. Ethena was literally built from the ashes of these failures.
So how does Ethena try to solve this impossible trilemma? By not playing the game at all. They created a totally new model, one that acts less like a currency and more like a tokenized hedge fund.
Now, this is the most important thing to understand. USDe is not backed by a dollar in a bank account. It's the tokenized result of a trading position, a position that is specifically engineered to be market neutral and hold a stable value completely outside of the traditional banking system.
When you actually compare the models side by side, you can see Ethena's unique position. It gets that one-to-one capital efficiency, just like USDC, but without being tied to a bank. Its stability comes from a delta-neutral hedge, which means it has a totally different risk profile. Not regulatory risk, but market and counterparty risk.
Okay, so let's pop the hood. Let's really get into how this tokenized hedge fund actually keeps its peg and kicks off that impressive yield.
It's one thing to say it's a hedge, but what does that actually mean? How does it all work to maintain a perfect $1 value, and where in the world does that famous Ethena yield come from?
The process is actually pretty slick. When you want to mint USD, you deposit an asset, like staked ETH. The moment you do that, the protocol instantly goes to a derivatives exchange and opens a short position for the exact same dollar amount. Just like that, you're perfectly hedged. And here is where the magic happens. If the price of Ethereum shoots up, the staked ETH you deposited is worth more, but the short position loses an equal amount. If Ethereum's price tanks, your collateral loses value. But guess what? Your short position makes a profit. The two sides are designed to perfectly cancel each other out, keeping the total value locked at $1.
So that handles stability. Now for the yield. Ethena lets you take this stable USD and create what they call the internet bond. You just stake your USDe, you get SUSDe in return, and this new token captures all the cash flows being generated by the protocol's core strategy.
And this yield comes from two purely crypto-native sources. First, the staked ETH collateral itself earns a nice base yield. But the real engine is the funding rates from derivatives markets. See, in most market conditions, traders are bullish, and they pay a small fee to hold their long positions. Since Ethena is always short, it just sits there and collects those fees, creating this powerful organic cash flow.
This whole model has led to absolutely explosive growth. But with that kind of scale comes a huge amount of responsibility and, of course, new kinds of risk. So let's look at where Ethena is today and the challenges it's facing. And this is the result. In less than 2 years, USD's market cap has skyrocketed past $14 billion. This kind of growth is just unheard of, and it's made it the third largest stablecoin, right behind giants like USDT and USDC.
Because of this massive scale, Ethena isn't just another DeFi app anymore. It's become critical infrastructure. It's woven into the very fabric of DeFi. I mean, MakerDAO, which is basically DeFi's central bank, trusts it enough to give its markets a $1 billion debt ceiling. That's a huge deal.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing, but like we learned from the trilemma, there are always trade-offs. There's no free lunch. Ethena solved the old problems, but it did so by taking on a completely new set of risks.
Ethena's risks are just different. The big one everyone talks about is negative funding rates. If we hit a deep bear market, those fees could flip, draining the yield. To counter this, they have a huge reserve fund. They also have to deal with the risk of an exchange failing, so they use special bankruptcy remote custodians to keep assets separate, and they spread their positions across many different exchanges.
So what's coming next? Well, the vision is massive. They're building their own blockchain where USDe will be the native currency. But at the exact same time, they're building bridges to Wall Street with regulated products backed by BlackRock and a permission version for institutions to finally access real DeFi yield.
And that brings us to our final, really critical question. By creating this tokenized hedge fund, Ethena dodged the stablecoin trilemma, but its insane success has woven it so deeply into DeFi that its stability is now crucial for the health of the entire ecosystem. The question is no longer just about Ethena's risks, it's whether DeFi can now afford for it to fail.